Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council for Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve the council agenda. Any agenda additions or corrections?
Mayor, Council, I don't have any additions or corrections for you.
I'd make a motion to approve them.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve the agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Invocation is Riverside Church. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm here representing Pastor Paul this evening. I'm Jen Drott, the discipleship pastor at Riverside Church. Will we pray together? Heavenly Father, we just thank you, Lord, for this night. We thank you, Father, for our city and for the wonderful things that you're doing in our community. God, tonight I pray for a spirit of wisdom in this place. I pray for each council member, God, that you would give them just the understanding of what needs to be decided, what are the things that need to happen, and what decisions need to be made. We pray, Father, that they would be led by your Spirit. Father, I just pray for your blessing over this meeting and this time together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Next, a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Recognition of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anyone have anything tonight? All right, we got the presentation of MRAP Award of Excellence. That's for the VMF Grandstand and Facility Relocation Project.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, Michelle Snyder, the Executive Director of the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association, is here this evening to present an award. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Director Newman. Mayor Forcier and council members, thank you for inviting me here today. My name, as Lynn said, is Michelle Snyder, and I'm here to present the Minnesota Recreation and Park Association Award of Excellence to you and your outstanding Hutchinson Parks, Recreation, and Community Education staff. Just a bit about us, Minnesota Recreation and Park Association, or MRPA. We are a nonprofit membership-based association representing the parks and recreation industry across the state. Currently, we have more than 900 members, and these members represent city, county, special park district, community education, and commercial agencies. MRPA administers an Awards of Excellence program, which is why I'm here tonight. And it's an annual program created to recognize agencies and their staff for an outstanding project, such as your Veterans Memorial Field, Grandstand project, and facility renovations. Members may nominate their project in one of 6 categories: administrative or management strategies, communications and marketing, park and facility, programming and events, sponsorships and partnerships, and that is the category in which your project was nominated, and volunteer initiatives. This is a competitive process, so each application is scored, evaluated by our awards committee, and only those receiving top scores receive the Award of Excellence designation. In reading through your application, our committee was especially impressed with your project. And to note, the level of public-private partnerships and stakeholders involved to bring this project to fruition, and the community investment through collaboration, the bringing of people and organizations together to maximize resources. On behalf of Minnesota Recreation and Park Association, it is my honor to present the Awards of Excellence for your Veterans Memorial Field Grandstand project and facility renovations. Congratulations.
I called him. You called
called Angie, that's right. I got to come and spend some time at your buffet before the meeting. It's beautiful. Congratulations. You want to keep it?
We also have resolution number 16044, resolution accepting $7,060 donation from the Hutchinson Elks Lodge for the new musical playground feature at Elks Park.
Mayor and Council. Also this evening, members from the Elks are here to formally give the money for the new musical piece at Elks Park. I will invite them to come up and say something if they would like to. Otherwise, we could get another picture.
Good evening. My name is Ricky Hilgeman. I have been an Elks member for 12 years, and how I got involved with our inclusive park. That's how I became involved. And I am proud to say that our membership had voted to finish off our park with a playground music piece that everyone can participate and use regardless of their ability. And that was our goal all along, was to add some music into the park. Tonight, I also have our exalted ruler, Rick Vestal, here with us to give this donation to you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have a check, but it's already.
Yeah, it was already given. We gave our blood.
Yeah. Thank you.
They're gonna do a picture if you want to get in there.
I think they're doing a check through Gary.
Can get a pretend check.
Yeah, here, hold this in hand.
Make sure Pat's background.
You need to cut out.
Just pop it.
Okay. Thank you.
Next will be public comment, but I am going to read a statement here. On behalf of myself and the city council, I would want to thank everyone who came out at our last meeting and to apologize for not being able to answer several of the questions from the public that came up about the data center that's coming to town. The data center project received final approval from the city council nearly 9 months ago at our August 26, 2025 council meeting. Had there been some questions submitted to staff and council in advance of our meeting, or even a request to the city council or staff for additional information on the matter, we could have been prepared ourselves to answer some questions and concerns that were raised at our last meeting. As a follow-up from the meeting, city staff, working with conjunction with the staff from Hutchinson Utilities, had put together a frequently asked question sheet that should be hopefully answer a lot of public questions on this project. A copy of the sheet has been handed out prior to our meeting tonight and can be found on the city and HUC's website. Lastly, a couple of main points I want to repeat. First, this project has received final approval from the city council and has met all the applicable rules outside of ensuring the owner developer complies with the conditional use permit and building permit requirements. There is no more action of the city council. Second, please be aware that this project has been vetted by the city and HUC staff. Lastly, we heard from the public that we don't feel we are properly communicating with them on this project. We want you to know that we have heard that and we are exploring ways to better push information out to the public in the future. We would encourage you to read the document that we handed out or can be found on the city's website. And we would encourage the public to reach out to the city or HUC staff with additional questions you may have. All right, we will open it up for public comment. Just please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right, moving on, we have
Say, Gary, I don't think you guys actually took action on resolution 16044.
You're right, sorry.
I'd make a motion to approve it then.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve that resolution. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Will say nay. Motion carries. All right, there is no public comment.
Jeremy Lee, 426 Huron Street, Hutchinson here. Good evening, esteemed members of the Hutchinson City Council. I do understand that this project was approved many months ago. There are several communities following the same timeline right now. Carver, for example, has approved projects, but also has adopted a one-year moratorium by their city council at this moment. Minneapolis City Council has approved a 6-month pause on data center projects. Monticello is going through this. There's no pause, but there is intense community pushback. Farmington, another community with the same timeline as Monticello at this moment. I do want to say that all the rules were followed and projects have been passed, but at this moment, statewide, there are multiple bills introduced to stop new permits for additional additional studies. These communities are simply asking for more time to study long-term impacts. Also, everything has been approved for those communities as well. I would like to ask the question if the city council would be willing to move forward with a motion for a one-year moratorium for our community, something to think about. And just put the people before the project. That's it. Thank you for your time tonight.
Is there any other comment? All right, moving on. Name and address, please.
My name is Fiona Smith, and my address is 500 Lakeview Lane, Southwest in Hutchinson. I just was curious on how the analysis was done before, like what was proposed for the noise, like how was that, the analysis put through for that? Like I want to understand, you know what I'm saying? Like I know we've been kind of
Sure.
I'm just trying to
Why that
understand
was
that.
included in the conditional use permit?
Yeah,
So-
like, so can you explain how that?
Sure. The noise portion of the conditional use permit was, I guess, the feedback that the planning commission received from the public prior to adopting that CUP. I think the biggest concerns had to do with noise. If I recall, I think that was shortly after the data center that was built in Glencoe. And they had some noise that were surrounded with that. And so that was, Mark, you were attending the planning commission. I don't know if you know the exact details behind where they came up with that, but that's my understanding was that was the basis, was concerns that were raised during the Glencoe project, along with some of the feedback the planning commission had received from the public, was their desire to address the noise aspect as a part of that CUP. So, Mark, I don't know if you had anything else to add.
No, I think that's accurate. You know, it was a concern that was brought up at the planning commission, and that's why it was specifically added to that conditional use permit.
Okay. And that's after it's already built though, right? So if I understood, so they'll build and then the noise will be analyzed after it's built and then they have to comply after it's already.
A part of the building permit submittal is they have to include a noise analysis on the plans that they are submitting as a part of that.
Okay.
So before the permit gets approved, that aspect has to be a part of the plan, of the permit submittal. And once the building is constructed, then there is additional testing done to ensure that that meets the requirements of what was submitted with the building permit.
Okay, and who reviews that submittal? Like,
It'll be done by our building official. And then if we have, most likely, a lot of times, cities will bring in consulting engineers on the noise aspect. I know SEH in town has done some work for the city in the past with noise complaints, and so most likely we'll have to hire an outside consultant to do the analysis on the noise aspect of the permit.
do you think it'd be more cost efficient to have the pause first and then have these like tests done before the project is built?
It wasn't included in the conditional use permit, and so that gets back to the point that the council made, is that they've already made action, so they can't go back and reverse that action at this point.
Have you guys looked into the EAW assessment?
We're familiar with that process.
Yeah, I know I had emailed, I wasn't sure if you've taken any action kind of looking into that at all. Is a possible way to pause the project because of community concern?
Sure. We have not looked at doing the EAW, as I shared with you. That wasn't a requirement by the state. And one of the things I think is important for the public to understand, we have to treat every business the same, just like we have to treat every resident the same. And so part of the EAW requirements is when that's required for a certain project by the state, that's when we follow through on it. So we don't pick and choose, okay, this business gets an EAW, this business doesn't. So if it meets the requirements of the state in which one has to be done, then we'll order one to be done for that project.
Yeah, I think that with certain, like, the developments, they're gonna have different like, environmental, I think like that's the whole point, is like to study the environmental aspects of that development. So I can understand why every business wouldn't have that come up. But
what I'm saying is that the requirements of this does not trigger an EAW.
right, but what about, so the public feels like this wasn't a very transparent project. So there's concern in the community.
Sure.
And they're asking for a pause. So, like, it's not like, it's the community coming for you. It's not like just the business aspect of it.
Sure.
Does that make sense? Like, what I'm trying to say is like, I understand that on your side of it, you're not required to it, but there's people that would like that looked into.
Sure, and I think there's avenues for the public to pursue on that.
So the city is not willing to look into that?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. Kiefer Nash, 966 Osgood Avenue Southwest.
Excuse me, what was the name?
Kiefer Nash.
Thanks.
Thank you. So I prepared a statement today too, but after hearing the prepared statement that you guys delivered, it sounds like, you knew this was coming today. You knew that the community was going to come back out and we were going to stress, our concerns and everything with this data center. And I just want to know, I'm going to throw mine out the door after hearing yours, because I feel like a lot of time and effort that you guys you hear our concerns, you know what's coming, so you're preparing a statement to try and deflect and deter our concerns with this data center, and you guys are elected officials, elected to represent your constituents. I feel like we as constituents are addressing our concerns and we're bringing them up, and we're getting a lot more deflection, and we're getting a lot of, deterrent. You guys are pushing us down rather than hearing our voice, and just going off what Jeremy just said, it sounds like a moratorium is an option that we have, and I just want to know why you guys aren't willing to, at least meet us halfway on this and do something to calm our nerves and calm our concerns with this project.
What I actually don't understand is that we all live in this city,
Yes, sir.
and we're doing what's best for the city.
In your eyes.
Yeah, I
Or our eyes.
we looked into this and the project, and we did everything by what we were supposed to.
I agree.
So
I'm not saying you didn't, I'm just saying now you hear us, you clearly hear us, you prepared a statement in preparation for what we've been saying. Is there any way we can meet in the middle? I'm hearing a moratorium, I'm hearing all of this stuff that there are options, but from you guys, I'm hearing there's nothing we can possibly do, but it sounds like there is.
The moratorium would restrict any new construction coming into town. The one that you guys have questions on has already been approved.
Okay.
So we can do, I mean, if the council wanted to do a moratorium, that would be fine. That'd be for future projects looking to come into the community. Answer that question on the moratorium.
Thank you. Anything else?
Brittany Eckstein, 890 Texas Avenue, Hutchinson. I just wanted to cap on what Fiona was saying about infrasound. So that is the sound that you're not hearing. It's the felt experience is what it's called. It's where your body feels that weight of like the cooling fans, and it is a real thing, and wildlife also feels it. So that's something that, you know, you're saying that that's been looked into and that they'll address the sound later, but will they address the sound quality if someone were to say that they're having felt effects, like they're having nausea, dizziness, they're having headaches, they're having maybe strokes? Is that going to be something that we could even look and be like, hey, like the sound quality, there's aftershocks, if you will?
Sure.
I mean, that's something that you should consider thinking about, because with the cooling fans and the cooling systems, that can cause the felt experience, as they call it, in your body. So I'm just curious, because I know that it's...
Is addressed in the frequently asked question sheet. Did you pick one up when you came in?
I did, but that infrasound isn't really touched on so much. I mean, a little bit. And I know that it's more of the bigger fans, like the bigger data centers, that's an issue. But I know other cities are complaining about that issue, where it's like, hey, the sound is contained within the city limits, so they're not having that issue of loud noise. But
Let me get back to you. I'm pretty certain with the 154 section of our code, if that becomes a concern of the public, it's something that we can have tested. Now, I believe, I don't know off the top of my head, that that's handled probably by the NPCA or the Department of Health, and not the city of Hutchinson. Most of the things like that are handled at state and federal agencies. I don't know for certain off the top of my head, but that's my assumption is based off of section 154, that we would have the opportunity to test for that if that becomes an issue or concern of the public.
Matt, can you find that out for me for sure?
Yep.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. And I can email you and touch base. But
If you want to email me that,
Yeah.
so I can follow up. And then
yeah,
that way I have it
yeah,
ready to
that's
go
just a
back.
question I have, because I mean, I know that, you know, you don't always hear it,
Sure.
but you might feel it. So, and that's important. It would cause issues for our citizens. And there's that school, as I pointed out before, right across the way. So,
Yes.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, we're gonna move on then. We have approval of minutes. We have the budget workshop minutes of May 26, 2026, and the regular meeting minutes of May 26th of 2026.
Motion to approve both. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Tim. Any more discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, this will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. Board appointments, we're the appointment of Doug Johnson to the Police Commission to May of 2029. Reappointment of John Lofstall to the Sustainability Advisory Board to May of 2028. And reappointment of Tara Oberg to the Sustainability Advisory Board to May of 2029. B is consideration for approval of resolution number 16040, approval of disposal of street department surplus property at the cemetery backhoe. C is consideration for approval of resolution number 16041, approving disposal of surplus police department property at auction, and that's a squad car. Consideration for approval of agreement with Independent School District 423, that's ground maintenance, use of facilities in the Birch Arena. E is consideration for approval of purchasing mini backhoe. And F is claims appropriation and contract payments register A. Is there anything anybody wants pulled off?
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Motion by Chad, second by Dave to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda 2, claims appropriation contract payments register A, or register B, I'm sorry. My son has a check on there for his business, so I will abstain from voting.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Tim, second by Dave to approve with me abstaining. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll say nay. Motion carries. Public hearing, we have approval of issuing a 3-2 malt liquor license to the OSA Retail LLC DBA Hutchinson One Stop located at 1201 Main Street North.
Excuse me. Mayor and Council, we have a new applicant in town for, I'm trying to remember what the old name of the
Outpost.
The Outpost. The Outpost has new management, and as a requirement for a new liquor license, there's a requirement for a public hearing. I'm just going to say this because I know it comes up from time to time, especially now with the cannabis requirements. This is one of those things when we talk about rules and regulations established by the state of Minnesota. You know, we have to have a public hearing for a new liquor license. The state did not give us those same rules or authorizations when it comes to things like cannabis license and stuff like that. So the public is here asking why are we having a public hearing on liquor license, but not for the cannabis facilities that come in town. That's the nuances of what happens with the approval of state laws. And so with that, Mayor, I'd ask the council to, I guess, open it up for any public comments before considering the application.
Open it up for public comment.
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say nay.
I'd make a motion to approve the license.
Second.
Motion by Chad, second by Pat to approve the license. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And say nay. Motion carries. We have the Creekside Soil year-end report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. As you had just stated, I'm here tonight for you to give a quick little review of the 2025. I'll get there. Getting it started first. I'm on it. So, a little later than normal in the year. Typically I give this in late January, but due to some conflicting schedule, I'm here tonight for you. So, to start things out, looking at the mission statement for Creekside. I'm not going to read through it all, but this is something that was established many years ago. It still stands true to this day. So for the most part, I think everyone is well aware that Creekside operation is really derived from two separate operating funds. The first one that I'll speak to or touch on is the refuse fund. And a quick definition on that is through the refuse fund, the city charges its residents a monthly garbage fee for the collection and disposal of municipal solid waste, otherwise known as MSW, and the source separated organic material. Those garbage fees collected from residents are used to pay for the contracted hauling and collection service for both the MSW and the source separated organics, which is the West Central garbage trucks you see up and down the road. It also pays for the landfill disposal charges for the garbage, the MSW, and the white goods pickup that happens twice a year, spring and fall. And it also pays for the expenditures for the source separated operation out at Creekside, which includes building improvements and capital equipment purchases. So, to move on, there's really only a handful of things to really monitor within the refuse fund as far as we're concerned, or Creekside is concerned, and it's the tonnages here of the different materials. So black line up on top, MSW, the garbage ton, showing a steady incline over the recent years. The middle green line is showing a little bit of a dip there through 23, but then bouncing back up into 2025, just shy of 1,500 ton received. And then the blue line down on the bottom is we call them residuals, but it's essentially the contamination that's screened out of the organics that we receive. And the biggest thing I want to point out here is, and I'll touch a little bit on it moving forward, but in 2023, we had a public outreach and education coordinator position created and filled. So at this point, based on this data, it's really telling us that the work done by that individual is starting to pay dividends. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to be a snap of a finger, flip of a switch, but the trending is pointing in the right direction. The dip in the residual tons is something that I'll maybe explain a little bit further, but we were also, in conjunction with the reduction in contamination being put into the carts initially, we also applied for an MPCA grant in 24 for some vacuum equipment that we use in line with our screening plant, which sucks the film plastic out. So in essence, it's just the film plastic that's going to the landfill and not everything else, the wood waste and larger items that we can actually reintroduce back into the system. So that's the big dip on that. And then that 23 ton, I don't know, I can't do the math off the tip of my tongue, but we pay $80 a ton roughly at the landfill to dispose of that. So to essentially drop 200 ton at $80, it's quite a significant chunk of change in savings of what's going to landfill. A lot of this again, going back to the Compost It Right campaign, that was initially an MPCA grant funded campaign. That funding ended in May 2025. The campaign itself hasn't ended. That's what our outreach and education coordinator is still pursuing, still pushing out there. So a handful of the things that she continues to work on is continuing contamination reduction efforts, and part of that is improving communication with the hauler, making the drivers understand and aware of what we deem as contamination. If they see it out on the routes, they take pictures of it, they send that information to Cassandra with an address. Cassandra follows up and basically enacts enforcement if need be. Our enforcement process now is after 2 offenses, your cart is pulled. It used to be 3, but we tightened it up here in the recent years. So in 2025, there were 18 organics carts removed from residents. Residents do have the opportunity to get that cart back. They would have to come and take a tour of the facility and understand why the contamination they put in their organics container, how that impacts operations and ultimately the quality of the finished product. She's also conducted multiple facility tours to various groups, the garden plot demonstration at the Depot Farmers Market. Just a fun fact with that garden's been done for a couple of years, and last year, so it's a garden planted two garden plots side by side that are mirrored with the same plants. The compost side produced 83 pounds of produce that was harvested and donated to the food shelf, whereas the non-compost side only produced 34 pounds. So if that doesn't tell you the benefit of compost, I don't know what does. Also participated in a Plate to Garden event. I don't know if you've seen any advertising for that earlier in the year, but that's us working with a nonprofit group. We sell them the compost at a wholesale price. They turn around and residents can come and buy that from them. I think this year we did it in the Plaza 15 parking lot, but all the proceeds from that, the profits go to that nonprofit group, and they actually sold out in 2025. Another big thing is the involvement with the Minnesota Composting Council statewide toolkit. Being Hutchinson and Creekside's source-separated curbside organics program is kind of a frontier, especially in the state and to some degree the country. The Minnesota chapter of the Composting Council actually didn't mirror our toolkit that we have available for residents, but it was really the foundation of what they used to put a more universal kit together for all municipalities statewide. So that's a cool thing, a little pat on the back for us. And then lastly, just attending numerous community events with an informational booth. So again, just to kind of dive into what some of these efforts have done, the top half, the data on the top half here is the actual contamination rates, whereas the bottom half is a food waste capture, the food waste capture rates. I'm not going to dive into all of it by any means, but the percentages on the right-hand side kind of tell you where we're going. Obviously, we want to see the contamination rates continue to drop, whereas we want to see the food waste climb over time. I'm not exactly sure what the anomaly of 17.92% was in 24, but that's what was recorded. But all in all, to go back to the earlier food waste captures, of less than 3%, that we're starting to see, again, that trend upwards to, and educating more and more people how to easily compost their food waste. So just wrap it up on the budget side, or on the refuse side. Budget came in, the year-end revenues came in ahead of budget by nearly $80,000. And again, the revenues generated in this fund are derived from user fees, the fees that are charged to residents. The expenditures also came in below budget. The majority of those expenditures are again the collection fees for the organics and the garbage, as well as the tip fee at the landfill for the garbage disposed of there. Closing out with a net revenue of a loss of $53,000. However, looking down below, I'd like to separate out the depreciation capital and transfer out the depreciation, $172,000 in non-cash items. If you were to factor that back in, the refuse fund has got a very, very healthy cash flow. The transfer out for 2025 generally consists of a $55,000 transfer to the Disease Tree Infestation Mitigation Fund, which did happen, but there was also an additional $50,000 that went to, I believe, the Stormwater Fund to be put towards the purchase of a new leaf vac. So the total transfer in 2025 was $105,000, which I believe is dropping back down to 55 or 26. Any questions on the refuse side at this point? All right, moving ahead to the compost fund, to the compost operations side. So again, quick definition of that. Creekside's compost fund serves as the drop-off site for compostable and recyclable materials such as logs, brush, yard waste, and clean concrete and blacktop, currently at no charge to both residents and contractors. With these materials, Creekside produces, markets, and distributes bulk and bagged compost mixtures, as well as a variety of bulk and bagged colored mulches to local customers and distributors within a current sales territory of what we know of 13 states from the Midwest into Intermountain West. And I think it's pretty well known that our three brands of the Splendor Grow brand, which you can find locally at the Runnings location, the Running store here in town, the Creekside brand, which is earmarked specifically for independents, which would be somebody like Stockman's out on Highway 7, and the Wonder Blend is our premium line, and that essentially is sold to anyone, so you'll see a little bit of Wonder Blend out at Runnings as well as Stockman's out on 7. So looking at the materials that fund works with, deals with, the total incoming tonnage, which just includes yard waste and wood waste, doesn't include the concrete rubble off any project, street project, or what have you. There too, since 2023, we're seeing an incline, and that's really nothing to do on our part. That's just organically happening, no pun intended. This year, 2025, we closed out just shy of 15,000 ton total of the two materials. Of that 15,000 ton, just a little over 8,000 of it actually is generated here locally, or is actually dropped off by either the streets department with the leaf vacuums, or the street crews, or just residents bringing it out, contractors like tree care companies. And I'd just like to point out that there hasn't been any rejects or overs sent to the landfill because of this material. Everything is fully recycled and reused to the fullest extent possible. Down on the bottom is a little breakdown of the makeup of the materials by type, and as you can see, we're pretty much 50-50 on the yard waste, and the yard waste is your grass, leaves, and garden waste, and then obviously the wood waste is brush and log material. I'll touch on that here on this next slide. So I wanted to point this out just because we've seen from 24 to 25 a pretty drastic incline in the wood waste received at the site. A little over 2,000 ton, but 2,300 ton more in 25 than 24. So one of the things we're looking towards is potentially starting to implement a tip fee on that material, just to help us manage our costs, because right now the wood waste market, if you will, is very flooded. There's more wood material out there than anybody knows what to do with or that has a home for, but we need to continue to process the material, which adds expense or costs us money. So we will be looking into a means of helping offset those costs if we potentially don't have an end market for it. Right now, a lot of our wood waste goes into bags. It's ground, double ground, colored, and sold either bulk or in bags, but we're just receiving too much of it that we really don't have a plan for. So this is something we'll be working towards moving forward throughout the year.
Andy, is it safe to say one of the reasons that we're seeing that large uptick is because we don't charge a
Yes,
tip fee?
there's two big, thanks for bringing that up, I was gonna print that out. There's two big reasons why we're receiving is A, emerald ash borer. Within the last couple of years, it's really taken off, so people are preventively removing trees. And then the second is that we don't charge. We're one of the few commercial accepting facilities, probably the only commercial accepting facility that does not charge. You get into the metro, they're charging for like a double axle, tandem axle dump trailer. They'll charge $250 to $300 to dispose of that, regardless of how much is in it. It could be stacked full, it could be one branch in it. They charge you $250 to $300. We know for certain that commercial tree care companies literally drive from a reasonable distance, but typically the western metro, all the way out to Creekside because they know they can dump here for free versus dumping it somewhere local and having to pay for it. You know, how they run their math, if it's more cost effective to do so, it must be, but we do know that's happening. So this is, you know, potentially starting to charge for it would be a means to help curb that inundation on our front. And it just throw a projected number on there. Obviously the 7583 was the total in 2025, and based on the incoming volume at this point in the season and mathematically formulating that out, we'll be showing another increase here looking into 2026.
And if that continues at that pace where we're getting more than what we need, and that continues to stockpile, does that become a health hazard, or, you know, I mean, what do we do with that if the pile just continues to grow?
A fire hazard more than anything. Yeah, so this isn't something new. I mean, not that I want to say we've seen this big influx coming, but it's been growing on us over the years. So we've actually started like regrinding the material to break it down to help it compost faster. It's not an ideal means because every time you touch it, it's more money. It's not cheap to run that big grinder, all the things. So again, charging for it is just a means to, if that's what we end up having to do with the material to try to compost it out, we have some revenue to offset those expenses to still have a competitively priced product at the end of the day to sell.
Could you do a tip fee for non-residents or non-locals?
We don't.
I mean, could you?
We could,
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the things going back. We just talked about this with finance a couple weeks ago, you know, to look back in the original documentation or any kind of agreements from when the facility was built. I don't know what's all in those, but I do know it was supposed to be open to all residents of McLeod County.
Sure.
To dump free of charge. Now, what we do with anybody outside, fair game. So we absolutely could. And we haven't checked for IDs, but as time unfolds, and if this does come to fruition, we will definitely start.
Yeah. Could that be bedding for like farm, you know, they have to have bedding for their cattle and.
It's not dry enough.
Gotcha.
You know, there's no absorption factor to it because it's a green waste. You know, a lot of the bedding comes from, you know, if I'm not mistaken, you know, it's like a shaving that's actually dried, ran through a dryer to give it that absorbing capability. But good thought. Next slide here is after we receive all this material processed out. Don't confuse this with a blueprint on a roller coaster ride at Valley Fair, but it's just the reality of what we've seen over the last few years. Obviously, through the early 2020s was the COVID peak, which was really good for us, and then we kind of rebounded down below pre-COVID numbers in 2024, but it bounced back here a little bit in 2025, selling a little over, well, basically 1.25 million bags of product out the door. We've acquired some new business here for 26, and I just wanted to note that we're actually projecting 1.5 million bags sold for 2026, and at this point, at the end of May, we've already shipped 1.3. So we're on trajectory to more or less hit our number with, you know, essentially 7 months of the season left. Obviously, the sales slow down through the summer and fall, but they still exist. So we definitely are on track for a good 2026. So to wrap up on the compost fund with the budget, again, good year, good solid year within the compost fund. Bag sales were up, volume-wise, up 3% over 2024, which resulted in a slight increase over the budget, 2025 budget amount. Expenditures came in below the 2025 budget, and a lot of that was just basically cost of goods. We had a really favorable year in terms of our processed materials, the pallets, the bag film, you know, a lot of things that go into it. and I would say very few, but less and less breakdowns, equipment repairs. So all of that adds up to minimizing our expenditures. And again, net revenue wise closed out at nearly $130,000 loss. But if you factor in or factor out the $290,000 depreciation, the compost fund as well is very healthy and in a good condition, contributing to its cash reserves. The transfer out of the compost fund is $120,000. I think it's been there for the last 2 years, 3 years, somewhere in that ballpark, but 120,000 back to the general fund. And to date, with 2025's transfer, just a little over 1.7 million have been transferred back to the general fund since 2009. So just to kind of look back at the whole big picture for 2025 and some of the mentionables, I had mentioned that conveyor with a vacuum on it is actually called a vac stack. That was acquired basically in January 1 of 2025. We completed a cold storage expansion project, which was absolutely necessary to house more and more of our process materials for the bagging line, keep them out of the elements. We did a PLC HMI bagging line upgrade, which was very, very much needed as the PLC, the programmable logic controller, and the HMI human machine interface were original with the 99 or 2000 unit when it was installed. So it was a very, very much needed update. We hosted an open house event in July. Approximately 200 attendees attended. As talked about earlier, the Compost It Right campaign continues to gain momentum. Bag sales increased 3% in 25 over 24, and Bitcoin was crushed in late 25, the fall of 25, and is currently available and right now looking to be available throughout 2026. Looking ahead to 2026, albeit we're almost halfway through it. One of the big initiatives on my plate is to work with staff and try to design and plan for an office expansion and truck scale replacement and relocation project slated for 2027. Just as time has gone on, adding staff members and just how the environment has changed per se. It's time for some additional office space. The working space we're working out of is original with the facility back from the early 2000s. Explore co-packing opportunities to expand our bag sales area footprint. One of our bigger customers is a regional farm and fleet supply chain based out of Sioux City, Iowa, and they have store locations going down. I don't know if they're into Texas, but realistically, you get to like southern Iowa and it just doesn't become cost effective to ship soils that far. So they've actually reached out to us to see if we would be interested in exploring those opportunities. And absolutely, I actually reached out to one potential co-packing plant in Topeka, Kansas, and at this point talks are early, but they were all in favor. Yes, just let us know, let's talk more, let's figure it out. So we'll see what happens on that front. And the co-packing side of it, just to explain that, is we as Creekside do that currently for other companies. You know, if they need additional capacity to serve their customers, and a lot of what we do ends up in big box, whether it be a Menards, a Home Depot, a Lowe's. But there's other companies that hold those contracts or have that business, and they maybe don't have the production capacity or they don't have any bagging facility up here at all. Well, they utilize already existing facilities. So yeah, we do it for them. So now the table will just get turned some potentially if this comes to fruition to start utilizing some of their resources throughout the country. And then the last thing here, just we touched on, was the wood waste material, potentially charging the tip fee here moving forward and figuring out a plan behind that. Questions? Comments?
Andy, what are you seeing? Because you started the countertop waste. Are you monitoring any of that to see if the increase or how that's faring?
Well, it could go back to, it's hard to determine that exactly, but it could go back to, the overall tonnage increase or this rate. So this was April of 25. This would have been about the time that this audit was done was about the time that they were just rolling out. We kind of ran out of daylight throughout 25 to do another audit. We haven't conducted one yet in 26, and we actually just talked about it this morning at our staff meeting that we will be conducting these audits more routinely to be able to measure what the trends are.
Do you know how many units are out?
I want to say Cassandra told me what the number was. I want to say it was like 800.
Okay.
You know, so 800 out of the potential 4,000 single-family households that have an organics cart service. So, not quite a quarter.
Thanks.
Anything else for Andy?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Andy. Moving on to unfinished business. Second reading and adoption of ordinance number 26-876, ordinance amending section 130.27 of the city code relating to public conduct and property condition nuisance.
Mayor and Council, you guys had a first reading of this ordinance at your last meeting. There's been no changes to the ordinance since its first reading. Once again, this is a result of the conversations the council had last fall with the public and concerns from the Downtown Business Association. This addresses the lying down or sleeping on public sidewalks.
Motion to approve the second reading?
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Say nay. Motion carries. Under new business, first reading of ordinance number 26-877, ordinance amending chapter 53 of the city code, the sewers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The board action form provided kind of some backdrop for this. The policy had last been updated in '07, so about 20 years. We had looked at it regularly, but this was the first really notable update. The good news in it is that our domestic strength waste has dropped notably across all categories, and so we use that as a basis differential for our industrial customers, so it's notable in that also. And then another thing we want to do with the update is try to apply as much stuff and refer it to our fee schedule versus leaving it in there and then having it outdated whenever the fee schedule changes. So there were a couple of notable updates that hopefully you saw in the document. Take any questions if you have it, otherwise we look for your approval of this first reading.
Fascinating reading, I just wanted to.
Good bedtime reading, yes.
Real page turner.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Dave to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Pat, do you want to do a question and answer of all the exciting aspects of that ordinance?
You know, I don't want to deep dive, no pun intended, into the sewer situation.
Getting into it.
All right, we have minutes from the Hutchinson Utilities Commission minutes from January through April of 2026. The Price Board minutes from April 6th of 2026. Chief Gifferson, do you have anything for us tonight? Thank you. Mike, you got anything else?
I do want to mention real quick maybe another highlight for Andy and with Lynn here, but 10 of our 18 solar projects are up and running at this point, and generating and have been for about 2 weeks. The two best performing ones right now are actually at Creekside. Both the tipping and receiving building are both doing very well. So
you take your credit for that, Andy?
Yeah. But right behind it, right behind it, though, are the two over at the rec facility. But no, they're all doing very, very well. So, and we're hoping 4 of the next 8 that remain should be installed here about within the next 6 weeks, and then we'll have 3 to 4 others that will be more in the fall. So, but good to have those up and running. We're working on the reimbursement side now. We've got a few of those approved and hoping for a few more later this week. So.
How about the street projects going on in town?
Edmonton, they did the second of 3 lifts today, and so that is progressing nicely. The third lift probably next week, and then that following week would be the painting, the striping. So we're about 2 weeks, hopefully, if all goes well, for that to open. And then, of course, the first phase of our second letting, which is the kind of Bradford, Sherwood, Elks Orchard neighborhood, that started on Monday, yesterday with tree removal, saw cutting and things today. Should be doing the reclaim starting tomorrow and Thursday. So that's going well. Expect that to go about 4 weeks. And then the second phase, which would be north of Century, take another 4 weeks, and that would also include the two portions over by St. Bees along Roberts, both Larson and Boulder Circle. So by August, early August, we should have everything wrapped up, if all holds.
Sounds good. Andy, you got anything else for us?
It's enough.
Lynn? Alrighty. Mark?
Nothing else tonight.
Matt?
Couple things. CGM Regional Conference is next Wednesday. I know I sent you guys all stuff to sign up if you're interested in attending that. Reminder that next Friday, the 19th, is Juneteenth, so city offices will be closed. And then just a heads up right now, it doesn't look like I'll be at the next council meeting with the league conference taking place. So you guys will be in good hands though. So without me, I think it'll be my second or third time ever missing a council meeting. And then Chad, I don't know if you're gonna mention it or if you want me to about the e-bikes and that we've talked about. So
Matt and I just had a nice conversation about maybe trying to do some regulation of e-bikes because it's pretty chaotic out there, and obviously a lot of people bring it up to me in my daily life.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe doing like a speed limit or like things like that, and being one of those things that obviously it's really hard to enforce, but it would give, if in the event people are doing wrong things, it would at least give the police some teeth to curb what's going on out there.
you know, there's obviously, I know, you know, we've received multiple complaints in the last couple of weeks. I mean, you know, this is one of those things, right? Because we hear it from the public, and then we also hear, does the city have anything better to do except, you know, from regulating, you know, e-bikes and, you know, scooters? And I guess my response to the public is we hear a lot of complaints from the public on it. There's some new laws that were passed that address some of it, and I think part of what we're looking to do is kind of mimic some of the state laws. And I think for the public, so they have a better understanding. We've talked about this so many times. A lot of this, once again, comes down to state law. State law identifies e-bikes in the same classification as regular bikes. And there's different categories of e-bikes. And so a lot of times we get frustrations from the public that why aren't you doing more with these e-bikes? The state says we can't. And so that's the easy answer to that. But we're looking at I think we're going to look at some ways, and I've already talked with Lynn, I haven't talked with Tom yet, of trying to at least put some teeth into a code that would give us some ability to do some things. I don't think it's going to address everybody's concerns, because some of that still comes down to the state laws. And then I did send a video out to the council as a Channel 9 report to kind of give a highlight on some of the things that are happening in the state in regards
Was
to
that in China? Is that where that was?
That was
or
Rapids
it
and
was
Blaine.
Blaine. I think it was Blaine.
Sure.
I reached out to them, see if what their ordinance says, or they have anything
So,
done.
anyways, just want to give a heads up to the council. That's something we're going to at least, and work with the the bike and ped. I'm trying to put something together that maybe makes sense for the community.
I think we should do that sooner than later. And if you look today, I looked at the state laws and the updates, it's as clear as mud. It's a little confusing. I mean, you really have to look at it kind of comprehensively but yeah, you know, like right now, there's signage on Main Street, but it really does kind of blend in. So, you know, I think there's some things we can do one of the things that kind of caught me off guard was an e-bike is supposed to be 15 years old to be riding them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm guessing
That's a state
parents have that's a state law.
Yeah.
Have no idea, you know, that that's part of the requirement. Getting the info out there, I think, is on us somewhat.
That's it for me. Mayor.
Well, I do have to say that Angie come home the other night and said, you know, I had a bunch of riders that were following all the protocol. So there are good riders out there.
So one of the things that we've done is that we've given a picture of the mayor's wife to everybody so that we know that.
Please use your bell.
Slow down around this lady.
Thanks, Matt. Pat, let's start with you.
I just said what I was gonna talk about, and that's what Chad already brought it up too, about addressing some, like you said, put a little more teeth into what we can do as far as for the public to not have to worry about them. The bikes, e-bikes.
All right. Chad?
Yeah, so we had a Parks Board meeting, and obviously it's in the busiest part of their season, talked about getting the pool open, and we talked about the donation that we accepted tonight. People are excited. It's going to be a big xylophone, which is kind of fun. And I volunteered my 11-year-old, who's a xylophone player, to play in front of Parks Board to, have a grand opening of it. And he was not overly receptive to that. So we'll have to see where that lands. And also I had somebody on the Parks Board say that she really enjoyed Matt's updates, like the pregame for the council meeting, and she wanted to have a postgame. And so Matt has said that he's going to do that, which is wonderful. So, but I've heard that from
Can't guarantee anything pretty from it, but
I've heard from other people that they enjoy the heads up and
A lot of TV time for this guy.
Yeah, he's very he likes
Well,
the
then there you
attention,
go.
likes the spotlight. So this will give him another opportunity to be out there. So, but otherwise, I didn't have anything else.
All right, thanks, Chad. Timmy?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Dave?
In between meetings, so I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Sounds good. I really don't have nothing else.
Motion to adjourn.
no.
No, wait.
I didn't read 16, holy smokes.
We're gonna move into a closed session. The purpose of this closed session is to develop or consider an offer for the purchase of real estate property located in Section 4, Township 116, Range 030. That's 120 acres. In Section 4, Township 116, Range 030, 40 acres. Section 09, Township 116, Range 030, that's 13.59 acres. I would now entertain a motion to go into closed session to possibly purchase of real estate located at those three.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to go into closed session to discuss possible purchase of real estate. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.